I'm here at CPAC 2010, and I'm interviewing candidates. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're running for?
Sure, and thanks for having me here, Rachel. My name is Frank Scaturro. I'm a candidate for New York's 4th Congressional District on Long Island. Just by way of background, I have been interested in history since I was 7 years old. That really got me on my start. I was captivated by the history of great men and women, great deeds that made the American experiment what it was. I became active in politics on a local level from my high school days. Had something of a mission to call attention to the disrepair of President Grant's tomb in the early 90s when I was a college student, which is probably my first practical interaction with Congress. Through the 90s, I finished my education, went to law school, practiced in a private firm, got to write some titles in the area of history and law, including an assessment of U.S. Grant's presidency, a book about the civil rights amendments that were ratified after the Civil War, and also co-authored a book on how to be a responsible public company in the wake of the corporate scandals in the early part of the last decade. I served on the Hill as counsel to the Senate Judiciary Committee for 4 years, handling issues that related to constitutional law and nominations. I got to work, probably the high point of my opportunities for public service to date. I got to work on the nominations of Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Alito. And as I'm sitting here now and serving as a visiting professor at Hofstra Law School, where I'm teaching courses on the legislative process, constitutional law, and civil rights.
That is a really exciting background. I'm a history major and lawyer and love constitutional law, and I just have to tell you that it's really cool that you've done all that.
Oh, thanks.
So what prompted you to decide that you want to run for Congress?
Well, someone having the interest that I've had, always seeing this as part of a calling. I think everyone is called to serve in whatever capacity they can. And as someone who's spent so much of my life reading about, writing about, and then making practical efforts both inside Congress and outside Congress, and the gadfly role, so to speak, in trying to make things work and to bring about change, it struck me, especially after being a non-elected official, serving in Congress on staff, that we were short of people who really seemed to be motivated to send the right message and to make the tough decisions and to also bring a certain depth into this process of making our government work. I saw so many people, especially on the Republican side, and yes, I go into this as a Republican, as a lifelong Republican, when you see so many people defeated around you, and some of the wounds that we Republicans had suffered were self-inflicted. I think that's one thing the party has to acknowledge. There comes a point, and the best way to describe it is as a calling. I'm not a big believer in complaining and sitting back and just criticizing the system. I think there comes a point when you have to, if you're able to do it, step up yourself and try to make a difference. And I refer to this run as a calling because I don't think I would have an entirely clear conscience, to be quite honest with you, if I didn't make this attempt, especially at a time when we're facing the type of challenge that faces only a few generations. And we're facing a crisis of confidence with respect to our healthcare system, with respect to the onerous tax and regulatory burden that people face, and with respect to national security issues. There's diminishing faith that our national leadership is making the right judgment calls on issues like that. And it especially impacts people in my district who live just on the outskirts of New York City.
Now, you were telling me earlier that this district you're running in was maybe a little more Republican, but it's kind of gone away from that, and you think that's because the Republicans have become so big government, and there's been so much spending, and they're no longer the party of fiscal principles that they should be. How do you feel about the Tea Party movement, and would you say that that's kind of more the direction you're coming from, as you're running as a candidate for office?
Yeah, I'm running in a district that consists of roughly half of Nassau County on Long Island. This was the nation's first suburb. It's an area that is distinctive. It's nothing like a typical urban district, but at the same time it is not a rural district. There are people in this area. This has been the case since people first moved out, as my family did, from the city to the suburbs. They became homeowners. They became concerned about being able to make a life for themselves and their families, paying low taxes, having quality education, and of course quality health care, and all of the other things that we want in life. But what happened, this county, which used to have an overwhelming Republican majority, it was 2-to-1 Republican at one point during the 1990s, began to swing the other way. And as we speak, it is sharply divided, and you can't accurately describe it as strongly in one direction or another. Democrats only overtook Republicans in this congressional district in 2007, but this is a district that is reflective of suburban areas across the country. Independent voters are the ones who decide the issues. There are 84, 87,000 or so independents in this district, and they're the ones who make the determinations on who wins the country, because control of Congress tends to swing not on districts that are gerrymandered to be solidly Republican or solidly Democratic, but districts like this. Now, what happened over the years was, yes, fiscal responsibility was abandoned. The government, on all levels, imposed high tax burdens, but they also failed to restrain themselves. This was true on the federal, state, and local level. That's why the composition of the district changed over the course of years, and you now have a situation where it is not unusual for a family to have to pay more than half of what they take in taxes. You have some of the highest real estate taxes in the country, sales tax that's exorbitant, and it is just so onerous on families who want to set their own direction that there was nothing short of a political revolution on the municipal level in last fall's elections. We heard about Republican victories in Virginia and in New Jersey, but in Nassau County, Republicans pulled upsets, retaking from the Democrats the county legislature and the county executive seat. They took the county executive position away from an 8-year Democratic incumbent who was seen as so popular that the conventional wisdom was he was going to run for statewide office. Well, he was taken out in this election, and it was by people who are fed up with the escalating cost of living and with a government that no longer represents them. There is a potent, powerful Tea Party movement brewing in Nassau County and in Suffolk County, really across Long Island, and there are people who want the government to take a stand on behalf of fiscal responsibility. There are people who are taking to the streets who have never previously, in many cases, they were not previously involved in politics. They're not out for anything for themselves. They're there on principle. And they are going to be the driving force of, I think, so many successful campaigns across the country. And that's why I've done as much as I can. I've spoken to the Tea Party organization, its umbrella group that's running the Long Island wing of the movement. We have to get them to hit the pavement to bring about victory and help take back the country.
And we've got only time for one more quick question, less than a minute. Is there any interesting insights, something intriguing that you've learned along the campaign trail that, just kind of stands out to you?
I could probably write a book with the number of things that have struck me. I always knew, just from observing the campaign, that you have to put the proverbial 110% effort into it. What is gratifying to see, you don't know until you run for office for the first time what the reaction will be. And this is the first time I'm pursuing elective office, even though I'd had these other opportunities for service. What I'd say is it's been really gratifying to have gotten such a positive reaction from people, friends, old friends and new friends, to this run, because I really dove into it. And if you're going to do it, you have to do it heart and soul. take a lot of risks, you make a lot of sacrifices, you don't know whether you'll make it, but this proves the adage of my hero, Ulysses S. Grant. He said, those who are not willing to risk defeat are unworthy of victory.
And that's why we like people like you who are willing to stand up and run, because the rest of us, we don't want to do the work, and we're going to work whatever we can to support you. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that.